Thank you, Madam Mayor. Apologies for absence have been received from Councillors Boyle, Costello, Ferguson, Martin, North, Reid, Roderick, Ward, Bray and Holland and Reid. Are there any more apologies? Sorry? Okay, thank you. Go on to the next item then, is the council minutes. Could I ask that they be moved, please?
Yeah, I move those, Chair.
Those seconded?
Seconded.
Thank you. Does everybody agree that those minutes are correct? So I can sign them? Yes. Thank you. Agenda item 3 is declarations of interest. Are there any? No. Thank you. Agenda item 4 is the appointment of executive leader. Councillor McLaren, move.
Yeah, I'd be delighted that Councillor Eleanor Wills be appointed executive leader of the council.
Thank you. Is that seconded, Councillor?
Seconded, Chair.
Thank you. Any other nominations, questions or comments at this stage? Councillor Dickinson.
Yes, I've not got any nominations, you'll be pleased to know, Chair. I've got comments.
Yeah.
So, the Conservative group wish Councillor Wills all the best in her new role as leader of the council. The next comments are no reflection on Councillor Wills personally whatsoever. They are a comment on the Labour group in general. Children's Services has been inadequate since 2016. You would think after the behaviour of Labour MPs and Labour councillors in the past week or two, they have only just found out, and yet they all knew for 8 years. Jonathan Reynolds, MP, Secretary of State for Business and Trade, Angela Rayner, Deputy Prime Minister, Secretary of State for Housing, Communities and Local Government. These politicians have very important jobs within the government, but their own authority is in such a mess the National Labour Party had to be called in to sort it out. Both they and the Labour councillors have never said a word publicly, not a word at council, nor a word in government, for all those 8 years, apart from Andrew Gwynn MP. To his credit, he did raise Tameside Children's Services in government. A commissioner was called in to find out what the problems were. His report was a very damning report and was published on the 17th of September this year, and the uproar was heard loud and clear. All 3 Tameside Labour MPs' first press release did was to throw corporate services under the bus. They welcomed the resignation of the chief exec and said they had made it clear that a change of corporate leadership was required. No mention that Children's Services had been inadequate since 2016 and remained that way under 3 Labour leaders, that the council has been controlled by Labour for 45 years and chief execs have come and gone. So the only constant in all those years is the fact it's Labour control. The Tameside Labour Party then start to behave like rats in a sack. Resignations coming in fast and furious. No thought then of who is looking after these children, or all hoping to save their own skin and political careers. Within the Labour Party, instead of standing together and working hard to make children's services in Tameside outstanding. The next press release is even better. Mr Reynolds MP talks about how Tameside Council needs to listen more, needs to deliver projects faster, needs to communicate better. Again, as though Tameside Council is a separate body from Labour councillors. Councillors are Tameside Council. They run it and have done for the last 45 years. In fact, Mr Reynolds was part of the group. So it's Labour councillors he is talking about. And I wouldn't say that's a ringing endorsement for any of you. Why has he never said this before, or at least in the last 8 years? These problems, and there certainly are problems, have not happened in the last week, or with respect in Councillor Cooney's term as leader. They go back a long way. The last couple of weeks have seen disgraceful behaviour from some of the Labour group, and I believe it is time they started to behave in a manner fitting their status, or resign. It's going to take more than a new leader and a chief exec to sort them out. Having said all this, we believe things have started to improve under Councillor Cooney's leadership. The report actually said that. And we hope that that continues with you as leader, Councillor Wills. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Any other comments? All in favour of that nomination? Yeah, please show. Sorry? Who? Councillor Coburn, sorry. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
I'd like to echo the sentiments shared by my colleagues today. First, to Councillor Wills, we extend our best wishes as you take on your new role. Second, I must express my disappointment following the last full council meeting, whereby several cabinet members and councillors chose to resign. The evening of full council, we all sat together and agreed that supporting the most vulnerable in our borough would be our top priority. However, the subsequent resignations and refusal of cabinet positions, seemingly influenced by our borough's now high-profile MPs, took place. It's a fact that children's services have been underperforming for quite some time, yet resignations were not considered necessary during those periods. While some may believe that stepping down presents them in a more favourable light, I believe the people of Tameside will remember these actions for a long time. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Chadwick.
Thank you, Chair. To quote Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, finally some of you have grown a spine. After remaining silent for 8 years, whilst our most vulnerable children have suffered, you sat here in silence, shaking your heads when our group spoke up on children's services and demanded the very change needed. But you cried full outrage, and now the public sees you for what you really are, spineless. And just like the former leader before Councillor Cooney with her godly green gaff, you thought that was funny at the time, then realised public opinion was not on your side, and you then made your move. I must admit I had trepidations over Councillor Cooney at first as leader, but I found him to be fair and very amenable. However, on children's services, he knew how bad things were and defended Councillor Fairfowl day in, day out, week in, week out, as did you all. To quote one councillor who sits in this chamber, our children deserve every chance and opportunity that I had growing up in Tameside. They don't. This council has let them down. Yet not one of you, or even he, backed our group during the last 8 years when we demanded change. You knew about social services and how they were failing our most vulnerable children. Yet not one of you would put party politics aside for the sake of our most vulnerable children. That is truly shameful. I would go further than what I said before, and it's not been 8 years, it's been 10 years that you have all known. Remember the Ofsted pilot in 2014? Most, if not all of you, will deny the pilot ever took place, but you all knew back then how bad the service was. But typical of this Labour-controlled council, citing that Ofsted was wrong and Tameside was right. A heads in sand moment, perhaps. And that's how it's been ever since. But to show how really concerned you were about children's services, you actually put someone barely out of nappies in charge before he stabbed Councillor Warrington in the back and swanned off to the sunny uplands of Burnley. As Councillor Dickinson has already mentioned, I would like to echo what she said. We do wish Councillor Wills well in her new role as Executive Leader. However, I would like to add a word of caution to her. DTA. Don't trust anyone. You were imposed as leader by your NEC, not your fellow Labour councillors in this chamber. And like a shark that smells blood, they'll be circling as soon as they see an opportunity. Fortunately for Councillor Cooney, in the last local elections in May, my ward colleague, Councillor Halligan, got rid of one potential threat to his leadership. To finish, I would like to extend my thanks to Gemma and Gary from The Correspondent. They left no stone unturned in covering this story from start to finish. And now the truth is out there for all to see, and those that weren't aware definitely are now. For too long, the other lot have been in bed with your group, failing to hold you to account, unless a leak, and not the vegetable kind, who had their own agenda, gave them something to go on. So with that again, thank you to The Correspondent for holding this council to account and reporting the facts rather than sensationalism. Really fantastic journalism that others in the area can most definitely learn from. Thank you.
Councillor Billington.
Thank you. I'm not going to repeat what others have already said, but in terms of what Councillor Dickinson said, she gives praise to Andrew Gwynn for raising children's services. That's only recently, only started doing that when his wife was booted off the cabinet when Jed Cooney became the council leader. He didn't mention anything beforehand about the pilot that Phil just mentioned. And I will be kinder to Councillor Fairfowl because, you know, as Phil has mentioned, that job was originally with Councillor Oliver Ryan, who is now MP for Burnley. And, you know, Bill comes from an accountancy background. He did originally hold that finance brief. But it was given to Oliver in order to save his skin for his political ambitions. But to be fair to Bill, you know, it may not have had the desired result that he wanted, but I cannot criticise him for his lack of effort as a cabinet member. So you have to give credit where it's due there. And I think it is unfair sometimes to lay all of that at his feet because we all, as councillors, have responsibility. But on to the NEC, it really isn't democratic at all, is it? None of you lot have had a say in who your new group leader is. You haven't had a say who your deputy is. It's been imposed on you. And what this says is that after 45 years, it's amazing really that the Labour Party realised that only after 45 years you're a complete shower. But you can't be trusted to pick your own leader. You can't be trusted to pick your own deputy. So why should members of the public trust Tameside Labour? Because it's an absolute shower. It's an absolute farce. And you look at any of the metrics that we judge on what a successful borough is, Tameside is always way down there at the bottom. And that's because of poor decisions that have been made in this council in the past. Cannot blame it on officers and just throw them on the bus when it suits. That's not fair at all. We shouldn't be doing that. We have to take accountability for that. Well, I don't because I'm opposition. So I can, you know, stand here and criticise. But, you know, you are the ones in control and you have to take ownership of that. But really, I do think that, you know, the wheels are really coming off the bus for Labour now. You have been exposed and, you know, you've got the Secretary of State for Local Government as the MP for Ashton-under-Lyne. And I've said all along, you know, Tameside is the blueprint for this country with Angela Rayner, Jonathan Reynolds, and it's an absolute shower. And, you know, it has quickly unravelled in government for you in just over 100 days. And, you know, it's playing out in this chamber for a slow death of 45 years. So I think, you know, come the next local elections, you are going to have problems. And I don't think actually many are going to be here because from what I have been told, the NEC will start interviewing you all and will judge if you're fit and proper to be a councillor for the Labour Party. So, and I've heard there's quite a number on that list. So half of you might not be in the chamber the next 4 years. I will be though. Anyways, thank you.
Councillor Clincarn.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to congratulate and warmest congratulations to Councillor Wills on behalf of the independent group. I'm not going to repeat what my Tory colleagues have said. I agree with some of the stuff they've said. But I'd like to just basically also take a moment to congratulate the Tameside Correspondent on becoming an independent news outlet that actually was sharing independent news around what's going on in Tameside Council to the public. I think the public appreciate that information from the council was being relayed in a timely manner, and we look forward to working with Councillor Wills, supporting children in Tameside, and also we are offering our support as independent because children's come first above politics. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to comment? If not, then we'll move to the vote. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favour, please show. Thank you. Anyone against? No. Congratulations then, Eleanor. Can I now ask the Executive Leader to speak?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Chamber, and thank you to everybody that has spoken and offered wishes of support with regards to my new appointment. Before I read the speech that I've got prepared, I suppose I just wanted to address a couple of points that were raised in the Chamber this evening. With regards to my appointment, I should make it abundantly clear that every member of our group had equal opportunity in terms of putting themselves forward as leader. As it stood, it was only myself that did do that. However, had other people wanted the opportunity, then there would have been a vote. So I just wanted to draw attention to that. Thank you. As I stand before you tonight, I want to speak to everybody and make a promise to all of Tameside and say that we hear your frustration. We heard it tonight in the room, and change is coming. Certainly something I'm hearing since the news of my appointment. I want to take the opportunity to thank the previous leadership, particularly Councillor Cooney, for the opportunities that he's given me in the past and for the work that is carried out for the borough in very, very difficult, trying circumstances. However, over the past few weeks, it has become clear that a new direction and a new generation of leaders is needed, not just to draw a line under the past, but to take the council forward and, yes, in answer to some of the points, rebuild that trust with our residents. In my previous role as Executive Member for Population Health and Wellbeing, I sat down day after day with residents, council officers and stakeholders to tackle some of the borough's most entrenched issues, including employment and skills, poverty and inequality. Working with these people, all of whom had their own experiences to share and exceptional skills to bring to bear, taught me one very important lesson. No leader can stand alone, and no one person has all the answers. True and lasting change, the kind of change we need to see in Tameside, only happens when all voices are listened to, when all ideas are considered, and when all people are brought along. It is a lesson that I intend to carry with me as we get to work over the coming weeks and months and years ahead. Our first and highest priority is absolutely our children's services, not just for the sake of an Ofsted grade, but for a much more fundamental reason, to ensure that we never again fail those who most need our support. The Council is currently in the process of recruiting a permanent leadership team for children's services. I look forward to working with them and our skilled and dedicated social workers to provide the support and resources they need to drive change. Let there be no misunderstanding. This will not be an overnight process. But I am confident that working with our Commissioner over the next 3 years, we will create the stability and substantial improvements needed to secure better outcomes for children, families and young people. My second priority is to continue the fight against the scourges of poverty, deprivation and inequality. I want Tameside to be a place where no person is left behind and where everyone feels like they have a fair shot at life. When I was the chair of the Health and Wellbeing Board, I saw how residents and stakeholders from the public, private and voluntary sectors came together to deliver innovative and effective solutions, often in the face of significant financial constraints. I now fully intend to build on this great work. Last but not least, we will press on with restoring our town centres to their rightful place as engines of economic growth and beacons of civil pride. This includes the work taking place as we speak in Ashton Mayoral Development Zone, including the Market Square, St Petersfield and Ashton Moss, in addition to planning for further investment and regeneration in Stalybridge, Droylsden and Hyde. I know that within Tameside there exists the ambition, the expertise and the commitment to deliver transformative change on these priorities and much more. It is now the responsibility of the leaders of this council, including myself, senior officers and elected members, to deliver the stability needed to ensure that this drive for change is built on strong foundations. The first step of this process, the composition of a new executive cabinet, who I'm sure will be warmly welcomed and received. This is already complete. I have every confidence that we will work as one collective team, pooling our skills and talents to make the changes that residents tell us they want and need. And next week, we will also put in place arrangements to recruit a new permanent chief exec, including the formal appointment of an interim and the calling of an appointments panel comprising of myself, the executive cabinet and members of the opposition. I want to finish tonight with a message of hope. Amidst all the recent noise and chaos, it is sometimes too easy to forget that the quiet and vital work to keep Tameside running has continued. This message is for those people, both inside and outside the council, whose commitment to the job at hand has never wavered. To the residents who day after day do everything they can to help their neighbours and communities. To the council workforce who strive tirelessly to ensure that services remain available for those who need them. To the elected members of all parties, or none at all, that represent their wards to the best of their ability. I say this to you. It is your hard work that will build a new and better Tameside. And when we emerge from this period of transition, it will be that victory that belongs to you. The time for talking is over and the time for action has begun. I promise that I will leave no stone unturned to make Tameside not just the place we know it can be, but the place our residents deserve it to be. Thank you.
We'll now move on to agenda item 5, which is appointment to various bodies. You should have a sheet in front of you. Executive leader to move that.
Thank you, Chair.
Yes.
So I'm asking that the appointment to Executive Cabinet be noted and the appointments for various bodies are set out on the table of documents to be approved. And there'll be further opportunities for changes to those appointments at the meeting on Tuesday, the 29th of October. So if I could move that, Chair, please. Thank you.
Seconded.
Yeah, second that motion, Chair.
Everybody okay with that? Any other questions? Happy with that? Yeah, everybody in favour? Right, thank you. I just want to remind you then that the next meeting is on Tuesday at 5 o'clock at Duckenfield Town Hall. I'll see you all there.